Hello, my name is Ripley. Welcome to the video.
What's up, Schmucks? I hope all of you are well today. Before we dive on into the review, I want to quickly tell you about something called the G-Words Podcast. The G-Words Podcast is my podcast that I do with my content creator friends. It's a real blast where we talk about a plethora of things. Here, have a quick little glimpse.
Dude, there was this one time my boxers had these were like boxers, like the baggy ones. There was a little like clasp. Yeah, no. Briefs are the tight ones.
Oh,
boxers
the
are
loose ones.
Yeah, the loose ones. And
Yeah,
there was this
okay,
little
okay.
button that the penis gate.
Yeah.
So
The
there
one
was
that's on like pajama pants and shit.
yeah. So there was but it was like a snap button, so it was metal. And I was just waking it through those in my bed. I must have cut my dick because there was some blood in my nut, bro. And I was scared because then I looked up what that means on WikiHow and it said I had cancer. So I was like, I'm gonna die. No.
It's
Fucking
amazing.
sucked, man. I was horrified.
So if that's something you'd be interested in, check out the links below. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk about the worst movie that I've seen in quite some time, 2022's Uncharted. So Uncharted, directed by Ruben Fleischer, follows a young Nathan Drake, played by Tom Holland, as he teams with Victor Sullivan and Chloe Frazer, played by Mark Wahlberg and Sophia Ali respectively, as they go on a globe-trotting adventure to find some gold before the bad guys do. Those bad guys being played by Antonio Banderas and Tati Gabrielle. So, first things first, I need to mention this. I love Uncharted. I am a die-hard fan. I've played the entire franchise multiple times over, and I've even met Nolan North and got him to sign my copy of Uncharted 4. I love this franchise. I love these games. And so, when I tell you that I absolutely hated this movie, I need you to understand where that hatred is coming from, where that rage is emitting from. I need you to understand that. Essentially, if you're not a fan of these games and you're not very familiar with them, and this is your first real exposure to the property, you are in for a bland, run-of-the-mill, generic as shit action movie. But if you are a fan of this property, this movie will feel like getting your fucking teeth kicked in. If that's enough for you, then feel free to go. But if you want some elaboration, don't you worry, because I'm gonna break this shit down. But I do have a structure to uphold here, so let's start with the good and what I really liked about this movie, and then we can move on to the things that I didn't really like. First up, Mark Wahlberg and Sophia Ali are amazing. Genuinely. As soon as Mark Wahlberg showed up in this movie and he said his first few lines to Tom Holland, I did this. And I said, that's Sully. Just everything he does and says and the way he does it and says it feels like Sully. I really did buy him as a young Victor Sullivan, and the lack of a mustache didn't really bother me. Mark Wahlberg genuinely carried this movie. Honestly, I kind of wish this was a Sully movie, like a canon prequel to the games where Sully goes and does a thing. I really liked Mark Wahlberg in this role. I thought he killed it. Then we get Sophia Ali, who I have never seen in anything else before, but goddamn did she nail Chloe Frazer. Like Wahlberg, everything she did and said felt like something Chloe would do and say, and I really enjoyed her in this role. And there's only one other thing that I did like in this movie, but it's a spoiler, but I also really want to talk about it, so I'm going to put this on screen, and if you're trying to avoid spoilers, then just skip to the time code on screen right now. Or if you don't care, feel free to listen. I don't care. Alright, you good? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Nolan North cameo. Oh my god, I loved it. As soon as I saw him, I was like, yes! And about 5 different people in the theater did this, which told me everything I needed to know about the lack of fans in attendance. But yeah, man, when Tom and Chloe pulled up to the beach and you hear the Uncharted theme, I was like, that's a really weird spot to put the theme. But then, no less than 2 seconds later, oh my god, it's Nolan North. I loved it. I really did. I thought it was great. Anyway, yeah, that's it for what I liked and thought was good in this movie. So let's talk about the rest of this shit. I have one giant criticism, and I debated on leading or ending with this, but it is burning a hole in my brain, and I think I need to vent on this. Alright. Shit. The number one thing that I did not like or enjoy on any level in this movie was Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. How the fuck are you gonna make an Uncharted movie and end up having Nathan Drake be the worst part about it? How do you do that? First, I want to say that Tom Holland has about as much range as a fucking brick wall. He can play cute, innocent schoolboy like Spider-Man and nothing else, it would seem. So when he goes and does a movie like Cherry, or The Devil Some of the Time, or Uncharted, he cannot sell these characters. Now for Uncharted, this is kind of important. If he's not selling Nathan Drake, we're not buying the rest of the movie. And guess what? He didn't sell Nathan Drake. Nathan Drake has a certain swagger to him. A swagger that Tom Holland could not match or replicate. Nate's also a cocky smartass who makes bad jokes all the time and always trying to find a way to weasel out of these situations with his charming charisma, and Tom Holland never once captured any of that energy. Nathan Drake also isn't a badass in the traditional sense. Throughout the games, he's shown to be a pretty average and normal guy. That's part of his appeal, but despite that, he's always in these insane situations and he always survives. But he lives not because of skill or training, but out of sheer luck, determination, and grit. That's what makes Nathan Drake so entertaining. But in this, Tom Holland's fucking flipping and dodging and running about like he's the goddamn Winter Soldier or James Bond or some shit. And to me, that's not Nathan Drake. Now, that's not really his fault, and honestly, this isn't entirely Tom Holland's fault. At least half of the blame is on the script, because again, this really just isn't Nathan Drake. But honestly, despite how shit the material was, I think someone like Timothée Chalamet or Dylan O'Brien probably could have sold this really well. Tom Holland can't, and he didn't. There was never a moment in this movie where I felt like I was seeing Nathan Drake. I saw Sully, I saw Chloe, but I didn't see Nathan Drake. I saw Tom Holland running around. Just the way he acted and spoke and did things, he just never felt like Nate, and he just looked like Tom Holland doing things. Fuck, man, I didn't like that. Nathan Drake is in my top 10 favorite fictional characters of all time, and I just sat through a 2-hour movie of Tom Holland shitting on one of my favorite things. So I think I don't like Tom Holland anymore. And again, it's really not entirely his fault. But if he had played the games, which I really feel like he didn't, he probably could have implemented some of that Nathan Drake charm, some of that charisma into this character. Again, the material, not great, but if he did a little bit of homework, he probably could have made it work. This is a tangent, but I'm gonna go on it. Tom Holland very clearly doesn't research the iconic characters that he keeps ruining. I shouldn't say that. I like his Spider-Man. But have you ever seen Tom Holland in an interview for one of the Spider-Man movies, and they ask him a question about Spider-Man lore? He never knows what he's talking about. He very clearly doesn't know a fucking thing about Spider-Man. But then you look at someone like Elizabeth Olsen, Robert Pattinson, and they get asked a question about the Scarlet Witch or Batman, and they're both whipping out comic book issues and iconic stories and this and that, and it shows that they very clearly understand the characters they're playing. Tom Holland doesn't have that with any of the people he plays, and it's really starting to bother me because they keep putting him in everything, and he just doesn't have the range to accommodate for that. It makes me angry. Okay, let's get back on topic. All right, so other than Tom Holland blundering Nathan Drake, what else wasn't good here? Everything. And that sounds like such a bitchy thing to say, but just hear me out. There's quite a few jokes in this movie, and none of them are funny. Not a single person in my theater laughed, and I was in a packed theater full of morons. That's mean, I shouldn't say that. The action sequences also aren't exciting, and don't really do anything particularly interesting, which is bullshit, because Uncharted is a franchise sold on its insane spectacle and crazy action set pieces. And this movie goes for 2 of them, and one of them is like the Walmart brand version of the plane scene from Uncharted 3, and the other one feels like something the Fast and the Furious movies would scoff at. There are also 2 villains in this movie. Antonio Banderas' bad guy feels like a substantially less interesting version of Rafe Adler from 4, and then Tati Gabrielle plays a badass mercenary lady who feels like a much less interesting version of Nadine Ross, also from 4. And they just kind of suck. They're not compelling or interesting or charismatic or anything. And that could be said for this entire movie. This entire movie is not compelling or interesting or charismatic. It's just bland. And I think if I wasn't a fan of these games, I wouldn't care. I think I could watch this movie for the dumb, lifeless husk of a movie that this is, walk out and forget it. But because it's Uncharted, and it is that, something Uncharted isn't, because Uncharted is memorable, charismatic, fun, full of heart, enjoyable, and this movie isn't. That's what bothered me, that they would take something so glorious and ruin it. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Full spoilers. Let's do this. You're not gonna watch this movie, nor should you. But this movie fucking bends over backwards to separate itself from the game's continuity, and I do not understand why. It alters Nathan Drake's origin story immensely, and it changes his relationship with Sam. It also changes how he meets Sully, and like I said, it feels like a totally different version of Nathan Drake. Now, this didn't really bother me so much as it perplexed me. Why would you go out of your way to change so much about a perfectly fine origin story? Also, to what end? I guarantee you that at least half the people going to see this movie haven't played the games, so why change so much about a character most of your audience isn't familiar with? And it's not like these changes benefit the story. They don't. They're just completely unnecessary and serve no purpose. I really just don't get it. You know, I said this didn't bother me, but it kind of sounds like it bothered me. Look, there's a lot I hated about this movie, but that's because I'm a fan of the property. But what are you really in for if you're just a casual viewer? You are in for a dull, run-of-the-mill action movie that feels like a bad Indiana Jones movie for the first 2/3 of it, and then feels like a bad Fast and the Furious movie for the last third of it. The movie goes for comedy and high-stakes action, but accomplishes and delivers on neither, and presents a really bland and forgettable story with a really bland and forgettable protagonist. However, you are in for a treat with Mark Wahlberg's charismatic and excellent portrayal of Victor Sullivan, and a fun and charismatic performance from Sophia Ali as Chloe Frazer. That said, the two of them are not enough for me to say that this movie is worth watching, because it's really not. Like I said before, if I wasn't an Uncharted fan, I probably would have walked out of this movie and forgotten all about it, because it's dull as fuck. But as a fan of the games, this movie just felt insulting. It felt like it was punishing me for being a fan. I went with a friend of mine who had never played any of the games, and when we walked out of it, his essential review of it was, the movie was the definition of mid, which I completely agree with, but he also said that the movie made him want to go and play the games. So maybe if that's what people get out of it, I would consider that a win. But goddamn, man, this movie hurt me. Like, my head was in my hands for half the runtime, I swear to you. But anyway, that's it. I'm sorry the bulk of my 2022 videos have been angry and negative, but hopefully when we review the Batman, I have nothing but nice things to say, because quite frankly, it looks like a masterpiece. But I don't want to get my hopes up too much and then be disappointed. It's okay. I'm seeing it next week. Very excited. Stay tuned for a review. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like. If you enjoy my stupid voice, feel free to subscribe. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
This concludes the video.